WreckTalk, he's an E and number 10 king. Georgia Tech in his blood, hear the anthem sing. Taking job colors down, high level pool noodle. Idiotic, ooh and seafood, yeah, we all can concur. I hope FSU don't sue me for this song. Damn the grain of right buds into the future so long. The SEC and Big Ten don't want you. And now fruits like oranges in a bowl haunt you. Miracle on death with miracle on North Ave. A miracle is what you're gonna need. Tallahassee much too trashy, the Seminole criminal. What happened to the crab legs Jameis stole? See dog direct, letting people on YouTube know where the UNC defense is about to go. Up with the white and gold, the future is ours to behold. I don't know, but I've been told Miami's back, we're taking me. Now wait another 20 years. WreckTalk, the greatest of his time. Shop college, dodging cage fight, scared out of his mind. Marching forward, fighting strong, loud and proud. Jackets forming, kicking ass, hear it shouted loud.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to WreckTalk. I'm going to do something I don't do that often, but I think it's due here. I'm going to issue some corrections. So, ton of comments on the preview video, and honestly, a lot of them fair, which is surprising given the amount of absolute hell I've given the Florida State fan base. That's not stopping, by the way. There'll be more videos where I continue to give them hell, as well as Ohio State and Tennessee. I got a video for that. But I did take some notes here. First and foremost, I was off base about your running back. Now, admittedly, I knew this was going to be tough for me to do a preview. I don't follow Florida State in depth. I don't have a depth chart to look to. I'm looking through a bunch of 247 articles, a bunch of articles from other places. They don't necessarily mention that where someone's transferring in from. If they are a transfer, they're just kind of giving projected depth charts themselves. Evidently, you get a running back from Alabama. I think he had like 576 yards, maybe 5 touchdowns. I'm sure you're very excited about him. Have every right to be. I'm sure he was a 4 or 5 star for them, probably a 4-star. Wrong about that. Washington thinks a returning starter for you, so I don't think you're losing near on the offensive line what I said you were losing. From everything I'm seeing in the comments, and I don't think Florida State fans have any reason to lie about what their weaknesses are. They're worried about linebacker play on the defensive side of the ball and wide receiver play. So they lose, Keon and Johnny Wilson. They're worried about who's going to step up in that wide receiver room and getting back to the level of production they had at wide receiver, last year opposed to this year. Another comment that I thought was really good was, look, who cares about who has the better offensive line or the better, wide receiver room? What matters is the matchup. How do those position groups match up against the other side of the ball? So Georgia Tech's offensive line versus Florida State's defensive line, what does that matchup look like? And, Florida State's offensive line versus Georgia Tech's defensive line. I might have just said the same thing. Sorry. You get the point. Now, breaking that down, I do think Georgia Tech's offensive line and Florida State's Georgia Tech's offensive line and Florida State's offensive line pretty similar in effectiveness. Maybe not in raw talent, raw talent-wise, star rating. Florida State's probably got the edge, but functionally, I think they're pretty similar in skill. If you're going to go with Georgia Tech's defensive line versus Florida State's offensive line, I think any Georgia Tech fan that's being honest with themselves is going to say that's got to be a massive advantage and matchup for Florida State. All reports out of the Georgia Tech camp, and obviously you have to take that with a grain of salt, same you would with things coming out of the Florida State camp for what they perceive their wide receiver play is going to be, for example, is that Georgia Tech's defensive line is much, much, much improved over last year. For me, as a fan, I will have to see that. That will have to be demonstrated on the field before I'm going to say, yeah, we're way improved over last year. So I do think Florida State has a major matchup advantage in the trenches. What else do we I think like Georgia Tech wide receivers versus the Florida State defensive backs and vice versa, that's going to be interesting because Florida State does lose 3 of their 5 starters there. I do think they've got a lot of guys that got a lot of snaps that are going to move into starting roles this year. Here's what I'd say if you're a Florida State fan. You got to stop Eric Singleton Jr. That's going to be the primary target Haynes King is looking for. I do think you'll be able to stop Georgia Tech running the ball if you want to, just because your defensive line is probably going to be pretty good. You might lose a step on the defensive line, but you're still going to be good. So I think if you just want to take away the run game for Georgia Tech up the middle, you're going to be able to do that. If you want to talk about keys, the key for Georgia Tech, if they're going to try and establish the run, you're going to have to run to the perimeter. Georgia Tech's going to have to run Jamal Haynes off tackle and Haynes King off tackle. So they're probably going to do a lot of read option. Now, they might say, well, we're going to stop Haynes King and just take the outside away, but they might invert that and have Haynes King run up the middle. Also, I think Tech does like to run jet sweep with like the slot receiver. So if you've played NCAA 25, you know that's pretty effective with Christian Leary. Georgia Tech has 2 track stars at wide receiver. Eric Singleton Jr., if he's not the fastest guy on the field, and this is probably going to be hard for Florida State fans, like they're probably not going to believe me. Eric Singleton Jr. runs a 10-200 meter. Like the guy is going to be at least one of the top 3 fastest guys on the field. Now, can you generate enough pass rush to take the deep ball away? Maybe. And I do think this game, as far as Georgia Tech being effective offensive, they're going to try and do 2 things in the pass game. We talked about what they might want to do in the run game. They're going to want to run quick screens to the outside. So Georgia Tech will run trips to one side of the field, most likely the wide side. They'll have the 2 outside guys in the trip formation, wide receiver wise, on the line, the other one off in the middle, and they're going to take the snap, and as quick as they can throw it to that back wide receiver in the middle, they're going to do that, and then they're going to try and cross block with the 2 outside wide receivers. They'll either do that or pull the inside guy in to get linebacker, and then they might pull the tight end in the slot to kind of crack block, or as close legally as you can do to crack blocking in today's game on that nickel on the inside. So they're going to try and do it. Basically, it's going to come down to, in the pass game, I think, how effective can they be in the quick pass game? And that is going to be because that keys on the linebacker play, which I think is your question mark, or your biggest question mark for Florida State on defense. Either can you be very physical with your corners and nickels and blow up that screen game that Georgia Tech's going to try and do on you, or can you scream over at linebacker, pursue, and make a good open field tackle with linebackers? Other thing Georgia Tech's going to try and do is kill you with whoever they have at the slot. And it's going to be similar. You know, Florida State's looking at who's going to step up at the wide receiver room. Same with Georgia Tech. If you're Florida State, I think you're going to try and take Eric Singleton Jr. away from us. And then someone else is going to have to step up. Most likely in the slot to pick on your question mark at linebacker. So can you run effective routes and reads with Haynes King, slants, drags, digs, out routes, out of the slot, post fade, whatever you want to do. That'll be an interesting matchup to see, nickel and linebacker versus slot receivers with Georgia Tech. The other thing is, can Georgia Tech get kind of their sleeping giant at wide receiver, Leo Blackburn, working on the outside? Been injury ridden. He's 6'5", very physical, big wide receiver. Can they get him going? What else do I have written here? I think I went through most of it. I did. So that's what Georgia Tech's going to try and do. Probably quick screens, crack blocking off of them or cross blocking off of them, try and throw across the middle in the quick pass game. And obviously keep the run game of Haynes King in check and keep them in the pocket. it doesn't even make sense for me to say what a key is for Georgia Tech's defense. What are the keys to victory from a Georgia Tech defensive side? Just because that, I mean, when you're 132nd in rush defense, the key is just going to be better. I mean, there's no sense in laying it out when there's so many question marks on Georgia Tech's defense. Now, I did pick you to win. I did want to kind of correct the record here. What I do think is funny, though, is like I pick you to win, and then, you know, you bring up a lot of the other off-the-field stuff, and it's like you can't expect me to pick you to win and co-sign a lot of the things that I think are BS. I will do another video addressing that as well, like the off-the-field stuff and what I think about that. And I think you'll see I'm probably as fair on that as anyone on YouTube is either. I'll lay out why I think you're justified in being angry, and why I think you might have your chin out in front of your toes on some stuff for that as well. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you're a Florida State fan, do you find any use to that? Am I still just way out there and not correct? I do listen to some of it, and I do take some of it to heart. So leave a comment there if you're a Tech fan. Am I giving them too much credit? Am I giving Georgia Tech too little? Let me know. Y'all have a good one.
WreckTalk, he's the king, and we're taking Georgia Tech in his body. The anthem sing, take it Jeff, call us down, high level ball number 8. Gotta go and save for you, we don't catch a car. I hope FSU don't sue me for this song. Damn, the grain of light runs into the future so long. The SEC and Big Ten don't want you, and now fruits like oranges in a bowl on you. Miracle on Tech.